Hello and welcome back to the Ascent Cycling Podcast for today's daily recap of the 2021 Tour de France. And we have a guest on the channel, a returning guest in the form of Mr. Jojo. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Guillaume. Very, very nice to be back on the pod after my absence yesterday. How are you?
I'm fine. Finally, I have someone to speak to, so that's actually quite nice. But yeah, we're back by popular demand for today's stage, and a very very nice stage with a very emotional finish, shall we say?
It certainly was. I really, really emotional on the Merds Britannia. We saw two ascents of the Merds Britannia today. Mathieu Van der Poel attacked on the first ascent of the climb, of course, and I thought he was going for the stage victory at that point. I think it's clear from his post-race comments he wanted those bonus seconds. Really, that's what he was going for there. He got the 8 bonus seconds, brought him back in the GC, and then he attacked away on the final climb to not only win a stage, his first Grand Tour stage, but also move into an emotional yellow jersey. Obviously, remembering his grandfather who passed away a few years ago, who never quite got into the yellow jersey. So a really emotional win for Van der Poel. He was in tears, I think it's fair to say, in his interview after the race. And yeah, just an emotional day for him, but a really, really stunning performance as well.
It was, and I think he was literally the strongest today. There was no questions asked. Like he destroyed the field on both climbs. Tactically, it was very well played. Purely leg wise, it was very well played, and yeah, he moves into the yellow. Raymond Poulidor could never, what we call in French, the éternel second, always second. His grandson, I think, has managed to avenge his late grandfather. But yeah, a very strong stage. However, we don't need to talk only about Mathieu Van der Poel because more things have happened throughout the stage, mainly in the breakaway with another Dutch rider causing a bit of a scene.
Ida Schelling, right? In the
Yeah.
KOM. We had a stunning fight for the polka dot jersey today. We had a first KOM won by Anthony Perez, and it was clear Perez and Edith Skelling would be going for that KOM jersey today, like they did on stage one. Skelling was in the polka dot jersey, and Perez took that first point, and then we had a second KOM, and the fight we had for that second KOM was stunning. I loved that. It was awesome to see both riders going from really far out as well. Nida Skelling did take that KOM point, and he does move ahead of Perez with that point, but I think he's lost the classification. He's now tied on 4 points with Van der Poel, but he still will wear the jersey for stage 3, I believe.
He will indeed. Mathieu Van der Poel is currently holding time, green, and polka jersey. So yeah, Edith Skelling will retain the polka jersey for the next few days. But what a KOM for a fourth cat! I can't remember the last time I've seen such a hard battled fourth cat.
Yeah, for sure. And the commentator, at least the British commentator, Rob Hatch, it was an awesome call from him as well. Really, really, everything about it. The shot from the camera was great. Even Edith Skelling's celebration after the finish of the climb, it was just great to see, and that was really, really one of my favourite moments for sure of this stage.
So we had the ascension of the Mur de Bretagne twice in this stage. I think many people did not expect to see any main attacks in the first climb. However, we did have Mathieu Van der Poel going for those bonus seconds. Very well played by Dutchman, as we've aforementioned. But the actual final climb of the Mur de Bretagne was not exactly how I expected it to go. We had, I believe, Sandro Merissa at first going for a move followed by a rider from UAE. Now, in France, everyone thought there was Marc Hirschi. I'm pretty much certain that Marc Hirschi is heavily injured following yesterday's stage. So no, it wasn't Marc Hirschi, Eurosport. It was Davide Formolo. And Formolo completely collapsed 200 meters after his attack. We then thought that Sonny Colbrelli could be the rider to watch out for. He probably is the fastest out of the bunch. He had made the toughest part of the climb, and then he attacked.
He attacked, and that was not the correct move, Guillaume. That was not the correct move from Sonny Colbrelli at all. He should have sat in, but nonetheless, I don't think he'd have followed Van der Poel anyway. I don't think anyone could have really. So I don't think he's lost himself the stage there, but definitely not the right move by Colbrelli. And I think just after that, or slightly before, we did see a Nairo Man attack, the first Nairo Man attack of this year's Tour de France, which I got very excited about, even though I don't think anyone really was removed from his wheel, but a very exciting moment nonetheless.
He just showed the colors of the Arca jersey. I did
Mm-hmm.
forget to mention it. But then, yeah, so Colbrelli basically leading out Mathieu Van der Poel, and Mathieu with a blitzing attack. I mean, the overhead shot of him 5 seconds after his attack, and there was a solid 10-20 meters already on the two Slovenians, Pogacar and Roglic, was like, how does he produce that much energy, knowing that he had attacked 20k before already in the Mur de Bretagne? Like, he was meant to have maybe weaker legs, right? He's used some energy, but he's recovered and he blitzed through the peloton. Then I believe some riders might have like looked at each other. For example, Julien, I don't think he had the legs, but he did look around him to see if anyone was going to make a move, because I don't think he wanted to take the rhythm on his own. But yeah, like an attack worthy of a yellow jersey. And Mathieu wins ahead of Tadej Pogacar and Primož Roglic, both 6 seconds behind the Dutch rider, but I think with bonus seconds, Tadej Pogacar overtakes Primož Roglic in the general classification. Big mention to Wilco Kelderman, the only rider today able to finish with Roglic and Pogacar. Did not count on him at all. But with Buchmann and Konrad losing a lot of time yesterday, Kelderman is really settling himself as the leader of Boransgro on this road.
Yeah, for sure. He looks really good. And usually something does go wrong for him, a crash or something, losing time stupidly in crosswinds, just something like that. But Kelderman looking really good so far at this Tour de France. And the route, I think, really suits him as well. It's a strong time trialist, which we'll see, I think, on stage 5. So, yeah, good to see he's in good form at this race. I do think, though, Pog and Rog today, I think, similarly to stage 1, they did look at each other quite a lot. Roglic is not giving Pogacar any turns whatsoever. He is leaving Pogacar on the front, basically, and he's not helping him at all, which I find really interesting already so early in this race. Is that a mistake again? Because I feel like those guys could have got a bigger gap on the rest of the field and certainly got quite close to Van der Poel as well, just a few seconds behind. So I really felt they did look at each other quite a lot to the top of the Mur de Bretagne today. So I don't know. I feel like an interesting dynamic between the Slovenians already.
It is, and it has to be mentioned. I can't remember a Grand Tour, where the two main GC contenders were already battling it out in the first 2 days, and they had all the expectations. Everyone knows it would have been a 50-50 between Roglic and Pogacar to win the Tour de France, or at least 45-45. Let's give that on the 10% to Richard Carapaz. But they are owning up to their role, and Pogacar is defending his race. Roglic wants to take his revenge. Roglic already gave him a Tour de France. He's not going to give him a turn, but it's actually incredible, because I think many people maybe underestimated the opening stages of this Tour de France, and it turns out we've already got a massive selection in the GC. Pogacar and Roglic are already I mean, a few seconds ahead of the rest of the contenders.
Yeah, they are. And looking at some of the the losers of today's stage, Geraint Thomas, he lost some time. He lost 15 seconds on pretty much all of the other GC contenders, even more to Pogacar and Roglic. Miguel Angel Lopez as well. Jakob Fuglsang lost time. Vincenzo Nibali. Yeah, I'm calling him a GC contender. Also, Lucas Hamilton, again, he came into this race really leading Bike Exchange, but he's had a really poor start, really. He lost quite a lot of time on stage 1 as well. So the Australian already finds himself over a minute down on Mathieu Van der Poel. So, yeah, like you say, these first 2 stages were not to be underestimated at all.
They were not. And I mean, you've mentioned that Lucas Hamilton could have led Bike Exchange. They have one rider that finished in the first group of each stage, Esteban Chaves. I mean, as I said yesterday in the pod, I don't want him to give me any hope. But is it a comeback of Esteban Chaves?
He's given you hope. He's given you hope. And it'd be great to see him really up there in the GC, wouldn't it? Also, I think Nairo Quintana is a rider who said he wasn't going for GC before the race. I think he is. Is that fair to say?
I think that might not be his number one objective, but as long as he can be in the mix, I think he's going to try and remain there. But the day he drops, I think he's going to drop. It won't be like 15, 20 seconds, or like let's say it won't be a minute. It'll be like a full on 10, 15 minutes so that you can go for KOM in the future days.
Yeah, I'm hoping Nairo Quintana can go for it. Higuita's doing well too. Also, Jonas Vingegaard is right there for Jumbo Visma as well, just in that group following Pogacar and Roglic. So he looks like the second leader at Jumbo Visma this year, and a strong time trialist again, looking ahead to stage 5.
Moving on with the rest of the top 10 of today's stage, in 5th place we have the former yellow jersey, and Julien Lafilippe, who did look quite weak compared to yesterday. I think he really used a lot of energy yesterday. Maybe not recovered as much today. He does have a few suture points on his knee, I believe, following a crash. I believe the first crash due to the OP and OMA person. And then we've got Bauke Mollema, Jonas Vingegaard, Sergio Higuita, Pierre Latour in P9 had attacks yesterday. Doing well today for the leader of Total Energy. And finally, wrapping up the top 10, is the Australian Jackie.
Looking ahead then to stage 3 of the 2021 Tour de France, we do have the first chance for the sprinters to dance, Guillaume, with a stage from Lorient to Pontivy. It's going to be a sprint, I'm pretty sure, a mass sprint in the end. We do have a few short kind of false flat sections before, but it seems like a pretty straightforward sprint to me. We do have a descent with kind of 7k to go till around 3k, but from then on in, the road is pretty straight into Lorient. Only a few minor roundabouts really, which does mean I think Caleb Ewan probably starts the day as the favourite in my book anyway. Mark Cavendish could be his first chance for sure at a stage at this year's Tour de France. What do you think ahead of stage 3, Guillaume?
I do agree we'll have a mass sprint. I think we may have a breakaway that tries to go for the KOMs. I would expect potentially to see Anthony Perez or Ede Schelling. Once again in the breakaway, they've done a lot of effort across the last 2 days, but I mean, come on, if you want to get the KOM, it's today. But no, I think we'll have a mass sprint in the streets of Pontivy, as you mentioned. There's that downhill, so I think you'll have to be somewhat well placed. Well, you can't be too far down already in the peloton in a descent. Caleb Ewan for me is the strongest rider on that kind of terrain. However, unlike on the Giro, he will have competition, and said competition may have a leader man of the name of Mikel Morcao. So that is something to keep an eye out on. I think we'll have a battle between 3 names, if I'm going to be honest. Caleb Ewan, Arnaud Démare, and Mark Cavendish. Arnaud Démare did work today for David Gaudu, so hopefully that hasn't taken too much of a toll for him. But yeah, I would love to see Mark Cavendish do well. I think he'll have a podium tomorrow. Whether it'll be a first place, I'm not so sure.
He's going to be up there with Michael Morcao, like you say, the best lead-up man in cycling. I think that's not really a debate at this point. But it'd be awesome to see Cavendish win this stage. A team you didn't mention, though, Alpecin Phoenix, they got Tim Merlier, of course. Jasper Philipsen, who I do think sprinted for the intermediate sprint in stage 2, which was interesting to me. And also, of course, Van der Poel, they have the yellow jersey now. So they have a very strong sprint team as well. I think they'll go for Merlier here. I think he's got a chance as well, for sure. Another rider, Wout van Aert. What do you think? People underestimated him in the pure sprint stages, the flat stages at last year's Tour de France, and he only won 2 stages in the first week. So I'm not making that mistake again. I feel like he could be right up there.
I would agree, and I think he's being quite conservative right now. He's being the teammate for Roglic on the first and second stages, because I do believe that yesterday he probably could have been able to follow Alaphilippe, or at least to try and give an effort. He didn't. I think he's being focused solely on the sprint aspect. The only issue is, in my book, he may lack an actual leader man. I don't know if they'll be using Mike Tennyson, but Tony Martin has crashed. He's still on the race, but I mean, he's not at 100% of his condition. And to win a sprint on the Tour de France, you need to have everything on your side. Jumbo currently does not have this, but whether or not can be a one-man team, he will be in the mix. Not sure he'll win.
Yeah, I expect a top 5 from him, I'll say. I don't think he'll win, though. But yeah, just mentioning as well quickly before the finish, the KOMs, kilometre 90 and kilometre 148. That's what we need to look out for. I'm hoping we get another kind of rematch between Ede Schelling and Anthony Perez, because only 1 point separating them, and the KOM jersey really is up for grabs here again, with it being so close in the competition. So I'm really, really hoping that those two make it in the breakaway again.
Moving on to the predictions part of this podcast. I'm currently 1-0 up, as I predicted Julien Lafilippe on the first day, and Joe didn't. just like the Giro, where I'm taking the lead yet again. But this is a chance to equalize for Mr. Timms. Joe, who wins tomorrow's stage in Pontivy and who joins him on the podium?
I will be going with Caleb Ewan to win stage 3 of the Tour de France. He usually does start Grand Tours a little slow, but I don't think he's going to this time. I think he's the best sprinter here, and I think he'll win in Pontivy. For second and thirds, I'll go for Tim Malia, second place, and Arnaud Demar in third place. How about you, Guillaume?
I too have Caleb Ewan to win. However, joining him on the podium, I will have Mark Cavendish in P2, and I will have Wout van Aert in P3. I would have loved to have Demar. However, the only issue I see right now with Arnaud Demar is that he lost Ignatas Konovalovas, and he was a key aspect as well of the train for the FDJ boys. So I think he may struggle for the first sprint. He will get into a groove in the coming stages. There will be a lot of chances for the sprinters. But yeah, we both have Caleb Ewan to win, so you can't equalize. But I guess we can both take an L.
We can. So you're going to hold your lead in the in our prediction game. But you heard it here first, guys. Caleb Ewan is going to win stage 3 of the Tour de France.
But that, nevertheless, is going to wrap up this daily recap number 2 of the Tour de France. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, then do make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're listening over on YouTube. If you're listening on your respective platforms, then make sure to give the Ascent Cycling Podcast a follow. Make sure to also follow us over on Twitter. And, from myself and from Joe, it is a goodbye. Joe, do you have a final word?
Chapeau, Mathieu Van der Poel.
Chapeau, Mathieu Van der Poel. Have an amazing day, guys. See ya.